like to call to order this board meeting on September 21st. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the agenda of the September 21st, 2022 Board of Education meeting. Oh, I thought it was after. Okay, sorry. Roll call. Sorry.
Take two.
Sorry.
Ms. Coco?
Here.
Mr. Gomez? Mr. Harris?
Here.
Ms. Schaefer?
Here.
Ms. White?
Here. Okay.
What's going on?
Now, it is recommended that the Board of Education approve the agenda of the September 21st, 2022 Board of Education meeting. Action by the Board of Ed in adoption of a consent agenda means that all items are adopted by one singular motion unless a member of the Board of Ed, treasurer, or superintendent requests that any such item be removed from the consent agenda and voted upon separately.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions? Would you please call the roll?
Ms. Coco?
Aye.
Mr. Harris?
Aye.
Mrs. Schaefer?
Aye.
Ms. White?
Aye. Welcome, our vision, Cuyahoga Falls City Schools, the hub of our community, committed to a culture of caring. We innovate, we create, we personalize education for all. This meeting is a meeting of the Cuyahoga Falls Board of Education in public for the purpose of conducting the school district's business. It is not a public community meeting, although there are opportunities for public participation. If an individual wishes to address the board regarding a topic found on the meeting agenda, the individual must complete a registration form found inside the attendance notebook and present it to the treasurer. Following the introduction of the topic by the board president, followed by board discussion, the individual will be recognized. If an individual wishes to address the board regarding a topic not found on the meeting agenda, she or he must notify the superintendent and/or board president of the topic no later than 3 business days in advance of the meeting. These individuals may share their comments during the board business portion of the agenda. In both cases, the individual will preface comments by announcement of his or her name and address and limit comments to 3 minutes. All statements should be directed to the board president. No person may address or question board members individually. In addition, in public session, the board will not hear complaints about school personnel nor against any person connected with the school system. An unabridged board agenda for this meeting can be found on your electronic device at www.boarddocs.com. For your convenience, hard copies of the board agenda may be found on the table by the sign-in book. The next regularly scheduled meetings of the Cuyahoga Falls Board of Education is October 5th, 2022 at 5:30 p.m. in the Cuyahoga Falls High School Library, 2300 4th Street, Cuyahoga Falls. The next construction planning meeting is on October 26, 2022 at 6 p.m. in the Cuyahoga Falls High School Library, 2300 4th Street, Cuyahoga Falls. And now for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Excuse me, I'm sorry.
Oh.
Ms. White, we did make it 6:30.
Oh,
We changed the time.
sure.
My apologies if that didn't get reflected. So it'll be 6:30 on the 26th.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. And now for the Pledge of Allegiance. If you will stand and join me in the pledge, if you can. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And now D, presentations, Ms. Stoykoy. Oh.
I was gonna start with the silliness.
Some like pop quizzes. Okay. Who can bring their little dinger first? I wish I had enough for everybody. Okay. You're gonna click for me? Gotcha. Thank you. Okay. So we're gonna go in a theme of one of my favorite things, and Lucas's, even though when I came in today, he started giving me a hard time. But the theme is both of our favorite things. You ever want to get pumped up? Watch Josh Naylor play baseball. You ever want to see someone's helmet fly off, watch Jose Ramirez. But they're doing very well right now, and so I just needed to bring that to everyone's attention and continue that theme throughout my presentation. Okay, emergency levy. So as you know, back in November of 2017, we originally passed the emergency levy. Emergency levy brings in annually about $3.6 million a year. There was a proposed plan back when the levy was first passed. There was an update to that plan in January of 2020, and then obviously some changes even since then because everything changed since January 2020. But I'm going to give a recap of all the things we were able to do with these funds. And as I was doing this, it is a significant amount of things and physical things and things you can see, which I think are great. We bought 11 brand new buses for about $1 million. We purchased 2 vans for about $50,000. We were able to purchase 3 new maintenance trucks for $115,000. Some of them were so old at the time we did that. Custodial equipment for around $175,000. That is a whole host of items. So we bought scrubbers for all the buildings, like the ones you like ride on and stuff. We've bought carpet cleaners. We bought new vacuums. We've bought some lawnmowers. We've bought some snowplow stuff to be able to do things. So that's really been helpful. We did security systems and cameras in the buildings, in the exterior of the buildings, along with the exterior lighting. Altogether, that was around $200,000. Obviously, one of the big initial things was the demo of Sill Middle School, and that came in around $550,000. We used part of the emergency levy and part of another fund, but to do the new playground at Silver Lake Elementary, and bleacher repairs across the district for $50,000. And this is just all kind of under the operations umbrella right now. There's another page of operations. There's about 4 buckets: operations, curriculum, human resources, and technology. So continuing on with operations, this is where the majority of our expenditures happen for the most part. Renovating the wing of Schnee for the preschool. It's about $450,000. We renovated and upgraded some of the 2 elevators at DeWitt and Roberts that were also very old and in need of that work last summer. The new media production studio at the high school for that career tech class with the 6th district. That includes technology and actually redoing the room and setting everything up and the furniture and everything. So that was around $200,000. This summer, there was some improvements to the weight rooms, paint, some part of the roof, different things. Lots of boilers and HVAC system upgrades or replacements. Preston, Price, DeWitt, and High School all had something there. And keep in mind, this isn't all of what we did. We did a lot of the boiler work as well with our ESSER funds when we put in the bipolar air ionization. So these weren't the only buildings affected. They were all affected. It's just these were the ones that came out of emergency levy for certain things. The food service department purchased, previously we were renting milk coolers, and so we outright purchased them. We bought brand new cafeteria tables for a number of the buildings, and among some other different food service equipment, ovens here and there for about $100,000. Parking lot renovations, which would include not only paving like district-wide and potholes, but complete tear-outs and redos at Lincoln, Price, and Richardson for $1 million. Another big ticket, roof repair and replace. I think almost everywhere is on there except for maybe Bullock. and that was a change just due to the fact that we did pass the building project and to not, when we changed the plan in 2020, that was really the reason of really, are we going to put a lot of money into some of these buildings we're not going to have in a few years. But you can see that ticket was $3.3 million for all the different roof repair and replacement. Technology and curriculum, student and staff, new computers and Chromebooks, $1 million. We've probably spent 3 or 4 times that, I feel like, at this point between ESSER funds. A lot of it was able to come out of ESSER funds, and some different ones from the state. And we've really, the initiative to get to one-to-one kind of got sped up in spring of 2020. Luckily, we were afforded our different federal funds, ESSER and different things to make that happen and get us where we needed to be. We did a district-wide network infrastructure upgrade in like 18-19, almost 300,000. Makerspace supplies and materials, 50,000, and different touch panels, carts, and other miscellaneous technology things for 250,000 over the last 5 years. Textbook adoptions, we did 612 science, 612 social studies, and 612 math out of the emergency levy fund. Those are not the only adoptions we did. Some of our adoptions are literacy at the K-5 level. Our K-5 math have come out of our ESSER funds. And then professional development for staff to go along with some of these textbook adoptions, and some of the preliminary work in getting these adoptions, about 35,000. And then if you recall, this levy was also passed right around the time there was also a reduction in force for the staff. This brought some people back, and it brought some additional things that we felt were necessary at the time. 3 small group instructors, our ISGIs, a community relations person, coordinator, food service and playground monitors, gifted supports, an intervention specialist at the high school, and a technology integration specialist at the high school as well. And that is a yearly expense, obviously, as staff, and we continue to pay that all of the 5 years for a total of a little under $2 million. So in total, we spent almost $13 million for the emergency levy fund for that 5-year period. It ends technically the first half of this fiscal year because of the tax cycle is on a calendar year. So this will be our last collection was this fall for that. Anything, the renewal would then start collecting in January. All right, name this movie. My favorite movie. You can hit the next one. A League of Their Own. Patty's got a point. President Patty with a point. This is my favorite movie. So, talking about the renewal, some quick facts, some that I've gone over. So this brings in $3.6 million annually. Originally approved November 7th, 2017 for a 5-year period. This renewal is also for a 5-year period. Emergency levies cannot be continuing because then it's not an emergency. Which would begin in January of 2023. The voted millage for that amount, emergency levies are different because you're choosing an amount instead of the millage, but they still have a millage associated with them. So at the time when it was voted in, that was 4.8. Current millage is now 4.22 on that levy. The cost to a $150,000 home per year would be $221.55. So, name this movie.
Gosh, I can't do that.
Ryan with a point. Rookie of the year. Float it. Do you not know that movie?
No.
What?
I've actually never seen.
Wait, who's never seen it?
I've actually never seen the other movie.
What?
That one I saw.
A League of Their
Own?
Own?
Yeah.
Oh my
you gotta see
gosh.
that one. Yeah.
Oh, I'm going home.
Movies,
Okay.
movies are hard.
So now looking forward at some of the items we're looking at over the next 5-year period. And we're going to start back in operations because, again, that's where a lot of this is going to fall. And again, I want to kind of say out that this is just that, as it was a plan. 5 years from now, it's much like my forecast. You know, we do the best we can with what we think is necessary, but as we know, a lot can change in 5 years, in 3 years, in 2 months. So this is kind of our perfect world scenario. If everything were to be going great, here's what we would like to do. Obviously, our big ticket item that we've talked about for a while now is air conditioning at the 5 elementary buildings, which it would total about $8.4 million for us over the course of the next few years, looking at kind of a 2-year stagger with those. We still have a need for transportation vehicles, buses and vans, especially looking forward to the new building and the fact that there will be busing for our high schoolers to that building since they're all at the same place. And that is kind of why we have added approximately 2 each year to kind of build that up so it's not a large expense for us all at once when we do make that transition to the new building. Custodial equipment and vehicles, around $275,000. HVAC systems and boilers, if I recall correctly from Joe's notes, that a lot of this is doing some upgrade and some repairs at DeWitt, since they are not involved in the air conditioning, but kind of getting them to where they need to be as well there. Some maintenance for the parking lots and paving, just looking at striping every year, potholes, and making sure those are kept together. Food service, equipment, this is just a kind of a cycle for them of the things I mentioned before, replacing their ovens, replacing their freezers, and those things on a continual basis, and giving them a little bit each year to kind of make sure we don't have anything and get into some of the positions that we were in the past when we weren't able to, make those repairs or replace those things when they were needed. Same thing with athletics, equipment, and uniforms in order to be able to get them. As you know, athletics is by itself, it's a kind of a self-sustained fund. And in order to get on a cycle where there is, the sports teams are getting their new uniforms each year, and doing things like that's been a long time where we really haven't had that, and we haven't been able to do that. And so giving them a little bit there. This is all over the course of 5 years, is $300,000. Continuing with roof repairs, and as we did towards the end of the plan, what we kind of do is do those surveys at the end of each year to kind of see what is needed and what buildings in particular may be needed. Some years we may not have as much, some years we might if there's something that happens. But we're projecting about $1.35 million there. Technology and curriculum is going to look pretty much the same. You're looking at a recycle and a refresh plan for your staff and student computers and Chromebooks. Obviously, the lifespan on a Chromebook and everything isn't 10, 12, 25 years. It's, we have a 5-year plan for that as well. Doing some server infrastructure upgrades, and doing the PA systems, which are very outdated in all the elementary schools. We will continue. There are still some textbook adoptions allotted in ESSER funds, which don't end until 2024. But then after that, getting back on here, we'll be on a cycle again for our textbook adoptions and resources, along with professional development that goes along with that. And then the continuation of the staff that we employ now out of these funds, and continuing those costs. So you can see total proposed emergency levy expenditures is about 18.7, which in reality is pretty much the total of those 5 years of what we're bringing in. Which is why I caution that this is not all anything that is, oh my gosh, we have to do all this, things are falling apart. These are, if we were in a perfect world and we could, do all this stuff and make the upgrades when we need to, this is what we would do. We still have a cash balance, a healthy cash balance from the previous 5-year period. And that was not included as part of this budgeting process, so we will still have that contingency basically. And there's $4 or $5 million there, basically for contingency in case there is some sort of, oh my gosh, this happens, or a tornado, anything like that. That boilers all went down at this building, we have to replace them, or we don't have to. So these are always reviewed year to year. If we're going to spend something out of these funds, it's usually discussed at cabinet. If it's not discussed as a group at cabinet, Joe and Ryan and everyone, they're the two that are spending the majority of this money. That's why I named those two. They'll call me up and have the conversation and say, okay, we kind of had this, and this is what we're looking at. Are you good with that? And so we always talk through it and see where we're at based on, because they know that there are other people in the mix too for some of this stuff. So next.
Christy, can I interject for just a moment? I'm sorry. And I know that I saw on here the the different, the PA systems and such, and I know that we talked a little bit about maybe some other safety measures that we might want to address, and I know we didn't specifically tease it out in this, but I would just like to also mention that
Yep.
we will be looking at some safety, whether it's personnel or, different devices and technology that we need, so I just
Yep.
wanna make sure that we added that in.
Yep.
So, thank you.
Okay, now name this movie.
Oh, boy.
Do you know this? Oh no.
Is that the Susan Sarandon and?
Aliens.
Nope.
Lucas.
Yeah.
Point. It's a tie game here,
What was
people. Major League. It's
Yeah,
about.
I'm still waiting for Field of Dreams, it's the only one I know.
I love
Angels.
that.
Yeah, you were playing. You're not tied for first. I'll tell you that much.
I was
Oh.
thinking of.
Oh, okay. Well, this is it. This is just my PSA. See, Lucas, you wouldn't even had to ask me earlier. The magic number for the Guardians is 9 now. They play at 8:10 tonight against the White Sox. It's a
What does
very
that mean, the
pivotal
magic
matchup.
number?
Magic number
it's a
means
cliff?
that is a combination of wins that the Guardians, pardon me, the Guardians need combined with the losses of like the team that is right below them. So right now they're in first place. The White Sox are in second place. So, for instance, tonight they play the White Sox. If they beat them, they get a win and a White Sox loss. So their magic number would go to 7
Alright, okay.
to win the American League Central Division and make the playoffs.
So if you were in, like, the first place, would you, the next person down, would it be like a negative number to the next person down? What would be your magic number? Just
No, really,
0,
it's
1.
if you're gonna win, like the White Sox would have a different magic number that they would need the Guardians to lose so many games than theirs is much higher because we're winning, because we're awesome.
Winning.
So, yes, very important. Tonight at 8:10, tomorrow at 8:10. So, with that, does anyone have any questions?
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
It's not specifically about the emergency levy, but you were talking about the contingency money. Is there like a magic number on that, like what we should have, like a percentage of operating budget or something like? And
Not necessarily. You could say the same thing I do about the forecast, at kind of having 25% of that, your annual expenditures, which really for us are about, we have way more than that right now. Like I said, we have somewhere between 4 and 5 million in reserves, because in that original plan, not all that money was expended in the plan. There were contingencies for emergencies that arose that we just weren't anticipating. Sometimes throughout the last 5 years, we've had to use some of that for things. Other times we didn't. What really kind of makes this one a little tighter is the air conditioning, obviously. But again, we're also not in as dire of need for some of these things. Like, yes, good planning and good, good looking forward and forecasting is, yes, we need to do all these things that I just mentioned. If it didn't happen, or if we were like, some other emergency happened and it wouldn't be the end of the world if we said, we're going to push this off for 1 more year.
okay.
So we do have that, but it's important that we have what we have, and we did not include that in saying, okay, what do we want to do this next 5 years? I kept that and said we need this kind of as our safety net just in case, because you don't know what's going to happen. Or obviously, we've seen that over the last few years that things happen, things break down all the time that you're just not anticipating. That something happens and oh my gosh, now we've got to replace 2 boilers. I mean, and that's not cheap. So, but we want to be able to handle that if that's the case, and with some of that contingency money from the last time we can.
Thank you.
Anybody else? That's it for me. Go Guardians. You're welcome, Lucas.
So when the Browns get in the playoffs, we'll have a Browns thing.
Won't be this year.
Oh my goodness.
I know, I just had it,
It's,
I know,
doesn't hurt to try.
I'm always hopeful.
Right.
Gosh.
Okay.
So Kristen's next. In the minutes.
Okay. Moving on. Like to recommend that the Board of Education approve all items listed in the Treasurer CFO consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Just the minutes, and a lot of purpose and goal statements for, all of our buildings. Those are all required each year. They fill that out. Those are for different local grants they get, or principals funds, or student activity clubs. It's kind of a mini budget, cause all their money is kept individually to their own club or to their own grant. Just to kind of tell me, this is what we think we're bringing in, this is what we think we're gonna spend, and then their administrators sign off on that, and I sign off on that. And then the donations, just one today, so, just 3 printers there district-wide, but always appreciate that. Any questions? Good, okay. Mr. Harris?
Aye.
Mrs. Schaefer?
Aye.
Ms. White?
Aye.
Ms. Coco?
Aye.
I'd like to recommend the Board of Education approve the August 2022 investment schedule and monthly spending report.
So moved.
Second.
Just real quick, general fund. Still in that cycle of receiving our county taxes from the county, if I could talk. So that's why we see the larger numbers there, as we've seen in years past. Expenditures. Expenditures were up a little, but that's just kind of due to the timing of things in the general fund this year. You can see, as in last couple years, it's that kind of spike has been a little in September. It's just a little earlier this year. But still positive results of operations, and we ended August a little under 29 million in cash. Look at food service. So the 35,000 in August is reflective of some of our summer programming. Obviously, August is a bigger cost month for us. We're getting ready for the startup of school, replacing all the inventory and getting ready. So that's typical. So Bill is sitting at around 700,000. He would like me to stop saying he has so much cash. But he's busy trying to perfect Hollywood Squares.
That's
so I taste tested one the other day.
I mean, I'll taste those. Professional Hollywood Square eater.
And then we can look at the interest real quick. Again, a pretty decent month. Good month for our Star Ohio. Again, that's because Star Ohio is where we receive all that money from our taxes. And so when we receive, that 20 million, 15 million, whatever it is over those 2 months, obviously we have more. So we had a good month there. Still good down on our state funds and our LFI funds, the interest there. Lower, a lot of that has to do with timing of when some of those things mature and when they don't mature. So it's not really an apples to apples comparison of our Star Ohio accounts. It just kind of depends on when that stuff comes due. But still, I don't think I had $150,000 in interest in all of 2020 to 2021 fiscal year. So that's good news there. And I really think that's about it. Athletics is still doing still doing good. They're kind of back to normal. Not a ton of activity yet in the construction accounts, other than the interest that you've seen. So, any questions?
I have a question.
No?
The field rentals for the soccer team, does that come out of this athletics account, or does it come out of a different account?
I would have to. I don't think we took it out of athletics, but I would have to look and see where we ended up taking that,
Okay.
because I don't think we've actually paid that yet.
Okay.
Like, so I'll let you know.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Good. Mrs. Schaefer?
Hey, roll calling, sorry.
Sorry. Ms. White?
Aye.
Ms. Coco? Aye. Mr. Harris?
Aye.
Any comments? Don't really
Wasn't
have
sure if you
any.
were asking a question.
I don't really have any this evening. We are just humming along there in the treasurer's office. Getting everything in there. Getting it all done. So we're wrapped. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's see if this will
And G, Superintendent CEO's Business Consent Agenda, Ms. Selico.
Thank you. I would like to recommend that the board approve the items as listed in the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Most things are pretty standard. The bus routes that we have to do each year are in there, that require signatures, and everything else is pretty routine.
Any questions?
No. It hurt my brain looking at this one. Schedule.
Oh, yeah,
Oh, yeah.
don't, yeah. You gotta trust Marjorie.
And I do.
Yeah.
Yes.
Roll call, please.
Ms. White?
Aye.
Ms. Coco?
Aye.
Mr. Harris?
Aye.
Ms. Schaefer?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. As far as comments, just wanted to share some things that are coming up and certainly related to our construction. So we have our groundbreaking ceremony next Tuesday, September 27th. So let's put in for some good weather. We need to, everyone dial in for that. We need some good weather. We're expecting a very large crowd, which is exciting. We have a number of, I think we counted, oh gosh, Amy, do you remember, was it 300 students we said are going to be participating? Close to that. So we have between the band, dancers, cheerleaders, we have NHS students helping and ushering. It's going to be a really great event. So looking forward to that. We also, we will have the Hollywood Squares. We'll have shuttles, so that'll begin at 7 o'clock, but the shuttles will start at 6:30, so would encourage people to consider doing that. We've encouraged our staff to carpool. We'll have reserved, some reserved spots for you, as well as a couple other people that have some needs that will make sure that there's some spots there for them. And then on October 26th, as President White had mentioned, that will be also an update on the progress and the design development, as well as it's the 100th birthday of the high school. So we're going to have a celebration there again with students involved, and so we're looking forward to that. That'll be 6:30 on the 26th. So we'll have birthday cake there. It won't be Hollywood Squares, but we'll have some celebration. Also have been getting around the district. It's nice that some students are recognizing who I am, and I've gotten several emails from students, which I think is kind of neat, with questions or comments and welcoming me and all sorts of different things that were just very, very nice, and some are interesting questions that they have for me, so that's always fun. Like what I'm seeing, just had a chance to meet with, I met with Richardson staff today. I've met with several of the staff at staff meetings. So that's been going well, getting some good feedback, both good and room for improvement, so things that we can discuss and get better at. So things have been going well, very well, still off to a smooth start. I know I jinxed this the last time, but we're good. And then I'd also like to introduce this evening, Danielle is here, and she is going to be taking over Lincoln for a short while as acting principal. So we appreciate her stepping in. Mrs. Beach will be done tomorrow, and hopefully Mrs. Early will be back soon. But in the meantime, Danielle's a kindergarten teacher there, right?
Aw.
And she'll be taking over. So thank you, Danielle, for coming this evening. And thank you, board. That's it.
Okay, and we will continue. Board business policy, the first read, we have two. The non-discrimination on the basis of disability and the Business Advisory Council to the board. So, those will come up in I think the second board meeting of next month.
So actually, yeah, the first read, number 1 will be the first read, so we're not acting
Right.
on that, but number 2, we need a vote, right?
Yep,
Yeah,
yes.
okay.
Okay. Then, number 2, policy, it is recommended that the Board of Education approve and adopt the following policies, which were reviewed at the September 7th, 2022 Board of Ed meeting.
So moved.
Second, Carrie was second.
Yeah, Karen. Any discussion? Good? Roll call, please.
Mr. Harris?
Aye.
Ms. Coco?
Aye.
Mrs. Schaefer?
Aye.
Ms. White?
Aye. And number 3, future agenda items. Does anyone have any suggestions for future agenda items?
I do not at this time.
Alrighty, and now we'll move to committee reports. Core construction team, that's me. Okay. Pretty much you heard it at the planning committee, but just some quick updates, what we talked about. TDA and Hammond, they got all the approvals, from the city council. They approved the GMP contract amendment, the district and city storm, the water management, maintenance, city and county permits were, and I guess they turned out to be less than
Yes.
what we expected, so that's always good news. EPA, sanitary permit, all those things. The clearing trees, which will take place on October 1st, due to the bats. We protect them until then, so then we can take down the trees. The demo at Liborn will start right after our groundbreaking ceremony on September 28th. And that'll be about 4 to 6 days of demo, maybe 10 at the most, but that will happen. Soon, the tree clearing again, October. Design and development submission date is 9/26. The BOE presentation will be, the resolution to move forward will be 10/5, the October 5th meeting. And they are still going through some staff engagement, especially with special ed and CTE groups. And then we have the OFCC update, which, will happen on October 6th. And that will all go to the OFCC for, their decisions and directions. And then the district update was CLT and planning committee was that evening, and they went through almost all this stuff that I'm going through now. But we did look at the animation, and it is marvelous. It was really neat to see how I think it was a drone camera that you start at the outside and you swing in to the building, and it was just so neat and so well done. So that's what we have to look forward to on the October 26th meeting. And I think that was about everything.
You know, Mrs. White, if I may.
Oh, sure,
That I forgot to
absolutely.
mention, and it goes along with what you're saying about, the new building and the rendering. So Christine Stewart, our communications coordinator, has started, on Facebook, if any of you follow, there's a countdown to our, groundbreaking. And so they're puzzle pieces being removed one at a time. It might even be on our website, I'm not sure. I know it's on Facebook, but, so you can get a little sneak peek, and then by the time the 7th day, the groundbreaking comes, you'll actually see, it's no longer really a sketch, it's really looking like the actual building, and it's very cool.
It is.
Something to check out.
It is. And next, we have Alliance for the School and Community Growth. Ms. Coco?
Yes, we had our first meeting, Dr. Selico did this past week on September 13th. And if my count was correct, there were 30 people there, which is amazing and more than we've had in the past. So, it was a really good group. There were a lot of administrators that were there. Christine Stewart was there as well as Dr. Selico. Because it was our first meeting, with Dr. Selico leading, it was a get to know everyone meeting, a lot of introductions, and she asked what's going well in the district, where do we have improvements, and what do you hope to get out of this. And it was nice to hear all the things that our community and businesses think are going well in our district. It was really a positive meeting overall. Of course, there are some opportunities, and they expressed those as well, but looking forward to this. It was the consensus of the group. They wanted to continue to meet monthly as opposed to starting it quarterly. So our next meeting is October 11th. And we had amazing food. That was a big piece of the feedback, was that there was good food.
Yes.
And so I think they'll come back.
That
Even
always
if it's just for
That's
that.
how I get you all there.
And Athletics and Activity Council, Ms. Schaefer, thank you, Ms. Coco.
Yes, so we met on Monday. They went over like a kind of a sports recap of the teams that are playing in the fall, what their records are within the league and overall. Something interesting they were talking about was addition of a girls wrestling team, and they were talking about a club versus a team, or girls on the boys team, or girls on their own team, or and whatnot. It was like it was a pretty interesting discussion. I'm very intrigued by that. So, let's see. They were talking about with the displacement of the students on the fields. There's been some creativeness into where the athletes are playing, and then some of the issues are getting them there with bus times, and then if they're playing on another field, they have to let the home people use their field first, then we would practice. They were talking about some of the logistics of that and things that need to get worked out. And then I know we already talked about the weight room and the positive things happening in that weight room: paint, carpet, new lights, some new equipment, and and then this week is the Chick-fil-A game of the week for Cuyahoga Falls versus Copley. And we're collecting canned goods at the high school, so whichever high school brings in the most canned goods then wins a Chick-fil-A party, which is kind of neat. And that is about it, I think.
Thank you. And that was board policy, really none at this point. Business Advisory Council, Mr. Harris or Ms. Coco.
Yes, that is Dr. Selico. now
Oh,
with
I'm
Summit,
sorry,
yes.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, you wanted me to
Oh,
chime in, or? Ms. Martin? You wanna do it? Okay.
I'm not sure if you need
Yeah.
to give a recap at this point or not. Have you had a meeting with them yet?
Well, so interestingly enough, so the difference here was we're gonna have to revise this because this is the policy that we passed for the Business Advisory Council versus the Business Alliance. So what we attended and what we're moving forward with is the Business Alliance, but again, that compliance piece for the Business Advisory Council. I actually attended a meeting this morning at the ESC. For our first meeting, we'll have quarterly meetings to meet the requirement for the state. So we had some great speakers. It was actually quite intriguing about artificial intelligence and some opportunities for our students, which I thought was pretty cool. But yeah, so that's the difference. So we'll probably revise
We just need to
that.
take that off.
Yeah, take it off, actually.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'll make a note of that.
And Ms. Schaefer, Financial Advisory Committee,
I believe we're meeting in November. Yeah.
thank you. Foundation Alumni, Mr. Gomez, he is not here. I don't know if they've met, or, I think he gave us a report last month, but I'm not sure that they met yet this month. Legislative Liaison, Mr. Harris.
Yes, there's not anything going on in the legislature. I just want to go ahead and provide folks at home an update real quick on why, just so you can understand. So leaders in the Ohio Senate and Ohio House canceled their if needed session dates in September. Members of the General Assembly will reconvene on November 15th with committee hearings. November 15th will also commence the busy lame duck period that will last until both chambers are all finished up. which would officially end the 134th General Assembly. So hopefully have an update in November.
Good, thank you. Student Achievement Liaison is myself. We will be meeting on October 3rd, our first one this year. And then we have Student Wellness and Success Liaison. Mr. Gomez, again, is not here. I'm not sure they met yet. I don't think they have. I think they'll start up in October, I believe, so. And number 5, comments. I'm going to go last since I'm leading the meeting today. So, Ms. Coco.
I will make mine short and sweet because the more I talk, the more I cough. So I'm just really excited for our groundbreaking next week, and I hope everyone can make it out. And it's just a culmination of a long time of a lot of people in this district and our community and everyone that's come together to make this possible. So I hope everyone can make it out on Tuesday.
Thank you. Mr. Harris?
Yes, just echo what Ms. Coco said. Please be at the groundbreaking. Please be there. It's going to be fun. It's going to be exciting. I also want to thank Ms. Stewart for all the work she's been doing. It's been incredible. I mean, regarding the groundbreaking, but just across the board, I think she gave a presentation at the last planning meeting, and I actually hopped on her Instagram, and just to see the Cuyahoga Falls City School District on Instagram is, that's incredible, Her reasoning for that, the generational difference between folks on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, I knew of that, but I get it now, so it's really cool. She's putting in the work. I mean, every time I'm on social media, I see an update. I mean, getting the calls from her, it's been fantastic. So she's doing an awesome job.
Thank you. Ms. Schaefer?
Yes, so I have a couple notes. I wanted to, so I attended the high school PTSA meeting this week. We talked about or I guess it was last week, about the appreciation breakfast they had on Friday, which seemed to go pretty well. Let's see, we did some fundraiser planning. I attended the St. V's band show, and band was obviously fantastic. I got a lot of positive comments. I was sitting with another band, group of family, and they were just wowed by the Tiger Band, of course. And let's see. Oh, I went to Preston today. Today was Wear Green, which is why I have this silly green tie today. Wear Green. It was the Start with Hello program. I was not familiar with this, but it's part of the Sandy Hook Promise program. So I looked up on the website, and as someone who cares deeply about children, you may know social isolation is a very real epidemic. It can cause kids to pull away and in serious situations even hurt themselves or others. Start with Hello is one of Sandy Hook Promise's no-cost, know-the-signs programs, and teaches students to be more socially inclusive and connected with each other. With activities and curriculum available for all ages, students are empowered to end social isolations in 3 easy ways. If you see someone alone, step 1, learn how to recognize the signs of loneliness and social isolation. Reach out and help. Step 2, find what you can to do to help others to feel included. Start with hello. Step 3, discover how to break the ice and strike up a conversation. And I saw a lot of positivity there, and then I believe that they're going to do a photo on Friday at the school. Yeah, like a big group photo. I also want to take a minute to comment on the sportsmanship of our football and team cheerleaders, football team and cheerleaders. I take for granted sometimes that respect and kindness that we see from our students is worldwide. Everyone has it, and sometimes I'm reminded that it is not. So I do want to take the opportunity to say that I am impressed with how the football team, the cheerleaders, have really conducted themselves with kindness and respect for their teammates and other teams, and that really speaks a lot to the coaches and the adults, and as well as the kids on the field, and it does not go unnoticed. So I just wanted to say that real quick too. That's it.
Thank you. Well, as always, I have an article. This was in the OSBA magazine that we received, and I really liked it. I thought it was very interesting. Consider innovative learning, not teaching. And we often hear educators and researchers stirring interest about some new innovative teaching method. For decades, the instructional emphasis has been more on teaching than learning. But with extraordinary changes occurring at an extraordinary pace, now is a good time for an ideological shift from examining teaching to improving learning outcomes while engaging students. To be competitive, they must possess core academic knowledge, strong social skills, creativity, and the ability to partner with other people and machines. In November 2020, the Ed Week Research Center administered 2 nationally representative online surveys, one to pre-K teachers, K-12 teachers, and another to students in grades 6 through 12, to examine the status of engagement and compare students' responses with those of middle and high school teachers. The study results suggested that in many ways, students and teachers were simply not on the same page when it came to engagement. While divergence in teacher and student perspectives of engagement clearly existed, 69% of students and 60% of teachers said they were hopeful about the future. Teachers and district leaders are fixated on teaching and delivering instruction as it relates to state standards, advanced placement benchmarks, or local requirements. There has been little practical or research emphasis on gaining information from students about their learning or around students designing their learning. All the while, we spent enormous effort and dollars on teaching. What if we were to hit a reset button and focus on students as active learners and participants in their learning instead of focusing on innovative teaching strategies? Let's be clear. Educators are working harder than ever before while facing pressure to deliver student success as measured by state-mandated tests. As one may expect with one-size-fits-all tests, we find ourselves unable to meet the needs of many students. Our numbers and varieties of disengaged students are growing. What if we approach learning as a process designed around individual learner readiness, strengths, needs, and interests? What if our learners became active participants in setting goals, planning their learning paths, tracking progress, and determining how their progress will be demonstrated? It's time to shift roles and allow students more ownership of their learning, to foster purposeful learning, establish individual learning goals based on adopted standards, give students a voice, and allow them to make choices with their teachers about how they learn best. Learning is more than a test score. I'm going to say that again. Learning is more than a test score. Creating opportunities for students to develop collaboration, problem solving, and critical thinking skills may be a way to engage them in their own learning. When students' learning is anchored in personal interest rather than mandated compliance, engagement will increase. Students who feel trusted and have ownership of over their learning are more focused and productive. They can make connections between this learning and the things that matter to them. Are we ready? We should be. As relayed in the survey, our teachers and our students are hopeful about the future. Let it be so. I just found that really, really interesting, something that we, I think, are trying to implement in our own district. And I just have a couple of shout outs to some teachers and what they are doing. 8th grade teacher, science teacher Amanda Bonds at Roberts, she is having her students create pinball machines. And I just think that is so wonderful. They are learning about kinetic energy, I believe, that's correct. And to build their own, and this is what we're talking about, this kind of innovative student learning where they actually have to collect parts and make it in a box and just learn. And that to me was outstanding. So shout out to her for doing something that really gets our students engaged. I also want to shout out to Sarah Jones and Nancy Samuels. They are high school Spanish teachers teaching Spanish 1. They are going and moving in a direction of learner-centered conversational model instead of the rote memorization. And to me, I think that will engage students all the more in their classes. And that's really all I had to say. And it is recommended that the Board of Ed adjourn this meeting. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you.
Ms. Coco?
Aye.
Mr. Harris?
Aye.
Mrs. Schaefer?
Aye.
Ms. White?
Aye. Thank you very much, everyone.